I would like to call the Instruction Committee meeting for the Frederick County School Board to order. The date is November 11th, 2024, and the time is 5:45 p.m. Before we get started, though, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for those who have served in our military, both past and present and future, to honor those who have served. Thank you. Okay, we have an agenda before us. Do I have a motion for approval?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We have an agenda. I will now pass over to Dr. Hummer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greatly appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. First, we are going to provide you with an overview of our Special Education Advisory Committee. We have some staff here. They're going to be presenting for you all. Thank you so much for being here this evening. We are then going to review the program of studies and the middle school gifted courses, and those are the only items that we are recommending to go to the full board for approval, so we'll review those with you here shortly. And then we have some updates with the Grading Coalition with all of the work that we're working on through that process, and we have some updates with you in regards to where we are with that. So with that, I will now hand it over to Mrs. Knight and her team. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Guys, and thank you, Dr. Hummer. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here this afternoon. So as Dr. Hummer mentioned, we have 3 items to cover, and we're going to kick off today with our Special Education Advisory Committee. To join us today, we have our Assistant Director of Special Instructional Services, Mrs. Kylan Kaufman, and Mindy Levan, who is our SEAC Chair, here to present information on our Special Advisory Committee. Welcome up, ladies.
Good
evening. Thank you also for recognizing Veterans Day. That's very important to us. So our SEAC Advisory Committee is our Special Education Advisory Committee, and they are really the link and the voice of the community to our central office staff. They meet 5 times per year and advise both us and the school board of any necessary programs, services that we need to implement for our students with disabilities. The SEAC committee looks at long-range plans based on what they've identified as our needs with other priorities and strategies, and then they make the recommendations to our school-level staff. Again, they are the voice of the community when it comes to our special education services for our children with disabilities. There are 23 members, 1 from each one of our schools. Any parent with a child with a disability is eligible to apply as the parent representative for the SEAC committee, and we currently have 23 members. We're about to meet next door in the conference room for one of our meetings. So what our SEAC committee has divided themselves into a few different subcommittees. So I brought our chair, Ms. Mindy Levan, to talk about the priorities of the subcommittee. So, Mindy.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all for having me so much. Having a husband who is a veteran, thank you very much for recognizing that. SEAC is an incredible organization, and I'm so proud to be the chairman this year. I've been a part of this committee since my daughter was in 5th grade, and she's now a junior at Millbrook High School, so it means a lot to me. We have some incredible things going on. The first thing, we are working on getting our own SEAC email. So with that, we will be able to have things centralized into one area if there's ever any concerns or comments, and especially as we start to pilot, we have a Google form that we're going to be sending out first with our members, then we'll be sending out to others to recognize any special education teacher who has gone above and beyond, and that will be something that will be sent to that email. two subcommittees that I'm very, very proud of that we are continuing to work on this year. One is the sensory room integration into all of the schools. And this has been a 2-year project that we have been working on. The first year, we did a lot of gathering data around the schools. What do they have? What do they need? We did a brief professional development last year in the spring. Then we had some changeover in leadership, and we just paused. Then we started again this fall, did another educational professional development for SPED lead teachers and assistant principals, and that went incredible. We had a really great time with that. And our next step, which is happening November 20th, we will be hosting some community members. They will be coming in. They will be learning about what is sensory processing disorder. How can we help support self-regulation in order to make successful community members? And we can do this a lot through our sensory rooms. So we're going to present that to them, and then we're also going to present some wish lists that our schools have provided us. And we're hoping to have some really great results from there. Our goal with the sensory room subcommittee is education and partnership. We want to not only discuss, our kids' needs with teachers and community, but we also want to build that collaboration together amongst the three. So that's one of our subcommittees that we are continuing to work on. The second one is inclusivity in our community. So we will be working on reaching out to some community partners and seeing how we can just include our children who are uniquely beautiful more into the community and give them some more opportunities so that when they are ready for the job force, they can have some of that exposure being out there. So those are our two subcommittees, in addition to meeting throughout the year to discuss a variety of things. And we're just so very thankful that you let us partner with you and the educators who are doing an incredible job in our community. So thank you very much.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
With regards to the sensory room integration, the sensory rooms, you're looking to, again, get sensory rooms in all of our schools? Is that the goal?
Correct. So they have some spaces. And some of the schools, some are working on that. The biggest thing that we've really been working on with our committee is what makes a sensory room impactful into the school. It's not just a room that has, beanbag chairs or, fidgets to play with. What are some things that are going to help our children learn those strong self-regulation skills, and giving them that space. So basically finding out what kind of equipment is needed and how it can vary from school to school.
I see. And is this something that you'll share with the board as far as the types of things that you need for these rooms?
Absolutely. Anytime you want to have us in, we would love to come and we would love to discuss that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
A few.
Or from the committee,
Sure.
sorry.
It's kind of piggybacking off what he said, and knowing that each school is unique with the students and the student population that they have in regards to the sensory rooms, I would like to see all of our schools standardized, but knowing that it's a special niche program, and different students might have different sensory needs at one school where they don't have it at another. Would you be able to, once again, later on, after you guys get all the information, provide us with a list of what you need, and maybe look also for grants or funding outside of the school board first, but then I know I would be happy to go ahead and look at that and try to supplement anything that you guys would need. I know our special needs program is not where it needs to be right now, but as far as I want a couple other things here. Shameless plug for you guys here. Your November 20th meeting. You guys are, got your voice to the whole county right now. What time is that, and how can they get a hold of you to get into that meeting?
Sure. So 10 a.m.
Okay.
We will be having that meeting, and if you would like to, is it okay if I give
Yeah.
my email?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to give your email?
Yeah.
You want to do yours first?
Sure.
Okay.
They can just email me, Kylan Kaufman, and then we can make sure that they get all the information that they need.
Yeah, is there any way we could maybe put that up on our community calendar so that folks maybe be able to see that if it's not already there?
So we've got someone knocking at the door, and then Ms. Helkowski, can you get with Mrs. Kaufman to post this on the website, to post it? Yeah, I mean,
Even on the slideshow, because this is
Yeah.
public as well.
I mean,
Sure.
this has already been sent out to the masses, but yeah, I agree.
okay.
Hope everything's okay.
Yeah, me too. But yes, we can get that posted. It's not an issue.
Thank you.
You said that meeting was at 10?
Yes,
10
sir.
a.m.
And if you all could, a small caveat, just so we can prepare our materials, if there could be maybe an RSVP or something a couple days before, because I'm preparing some folders with some information in there. So I'd like to have enough for everyone, and
Yeah, whatever information you guys would need or anything, I would say get with Ms. Helkowski, and that way, when she posts it up on the calendar, it'll be there, and that way people can come prepared, and we can have the most of that meeting. Next, you talked about a wish list. I know it's probably more of a needs list at most of our schools. What items would be on there?
I can actually share some of those with you, because each school, they have some of the same items, but each school is a little bit different, because some schools have sensory rooms that are more established than other schools, and like you even stated yourself, is, our kids' needs are different. So some might need more of a quieter space, while some might need some where they need to have more of an output to get some of that energy out. So I can share those with you if you would like. Some of the items that they include are a swing. That is an incredible output for our kids to get on that swing and get that movement going. Something as simple as a sensory sock, which is kind of like that lycra material that you can get in and you can stretch. Some rockers have been some things on there. So something as simple as a sequence board, some low lighting. So those are just a few examples of some things that have been on the list that would help to get the kids the sensory, output that they need. So regulation.
And one of the things I would ask is when you guys do come back for maybe any kind of supplemental funding or whatever, please bring the data, to show what works, as far as what you're requesting. That way we can make a better informed decision on that. We're not saying that you guys don't already have that information, but, it helps us out up here on the board when we have that kind of information. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. As far as parents that want to join SEAC, how do they go about that?
Well, anyone can come to our meetings, but basically to be a voting member on that, you have to get that recommendation, and then it's board approved. We usually have 1 to 2 from each school, so when there is a slot that needs to be filled, we reach out, Kylan and Shamiko reach out to the schools, and then they get some names from there.
And are all the slots filled?
Currently, I think so. I'll have to look back on our list
I
to
think we
see.
have 3 elementary schools.
Okay.
I remember Indian Hollow is one off the top of my head. There are 3 elementary schools that do not have a parent representative currently, but they have a teacher representative that attends the meeting. But I think it's just 3 schools that do not have an active member.
Okay, I appreciate it. That's why I'm trying to
Yeah.
push for information to get out there. That way we can get those folks out there. I don't want to see our special needs kids go by the wayside on this. So anything you guys can do, any information we can push out, I'd be happy to do that and work with our administration, Ms. Helkowski, to get that out there. Thank you, guys.
Dr. Hummer, would that be something that we could do, is to do a call out to those elementary schools, parents directly, and see if there's anyone that would be interested?
Sure, we can have Mrs. McDonald and Mrs. Kaufman reach out to them. I was going to add, as they are one of the 7 advisory committees that we have.
Yes.
And they are going to be part of that rotation. So you asked a great question, Mr. Atkins. We actually just posted today in the newspaper the opening of the rotation of our advisory committees for applications, and you all appoint them. And if there are individuals that are interested, they just fill out the application and you all appoint them accordingly. So we can definitely reach out to them to see if there's additional parents that are interested. More than happy to do that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions from the other two members here? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. All right, if there are no additional questions at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Myers to come on up and talk to us about the middle school gifted courses that will, upon your approval, be added to our program of studies. So with that said,
Members of the board, Dr. Hummer, thank you for allowing me to come and share with you tonight some updates that we have regarding the middle school gifted resource courses. We have some name changes, and we have one addition, actually two additions, and I'll take you through that. So the first course is a sixth grade first semester course, and that is not new. That is a program that's designed for students as they transition to middle school. What we are changing is the name on that, because parents often don't know what that means when they say GEMS. So we want to be more explicit and use the term transition to middle school. So it is the Gifted Academic Program GAP transition to middle school. And so those are the changes on that one. The next one, this is a new course that we are proposing, and it's for several reasons. Because students' schedules are tight, they're not always able to take that course as a transition to middle school in sixth grade. And this gives them different entry points into gifted resource classes. So as you see, they may take it second semester of sixth grade, or they may take it at any time during the seventh grade. It gives another, as I say, entry point, a way for them to still have that opportunity to engage with. It is project-based, inquiry-based, critical thinking skills, a research-based course. And also, we are calling it, as you can see, GAP Research 1. This is a sequence of a course for the middle school students, and I'll share with you in the next slide what I mean by that. So this course is not new. It is being renamed to GAP Research 2. It is going to carry a 0.5 weight, and that's because it's a semester course. But in order for children to get the 0.5 credit, they have to have had Research 1, which they could take in second semester, sixth grade, seventh grade, so lots of opportunities to take Research 1. And then they can take the Research 2 and get that half credit. This has been something that our teachers, resource teachers, gifted resource teachers have asked for a while. Oftentimes, students aren't able to, in that one semester course, go through the whole sequence of the research, and this allows them that opportunity. What we've created here is because it can be confusing for all of us to look at all these different entry points. So to your left there, you see that I'm a sixth grader. I come in semester 1. That's my transition course. I then go into Research 1, and I may take that second semester, sixth grade or seventh grade. And then I can wait until eighth grade, and I could take the Research 2 and get the half credit. I may not want to do all those things because, again, it's in competition with band and choir and art, so there are lots of other elective opportunities for our kids. The next scenario would be, again, they do the semester 1, sixth grade, and they may only do just the Research 1. They may decide that they don't want to do the Research 2. And then the next option is they may just want to do it first semester, sixth grade. The final option is grade 6 semester 2, grade 7 or 8 semester 1 for Research 1, and then they finish up with the Research 2. So those are the changes.
I have a couple of questions, actually. Can you go back a couple of slides for me? Yes. And for the course description of the Gifted Academic Program, the GAP, it indicates that the course is designed to challenge and inspire students, providing a differential learning experience beyond this is for them to develop a project that aligns with their passions and interests. Are they going to have choices of projects that are presented to them, or do they come up with it by themselves?
So they will have choices. It will be defined by the teacher, and that will be vetted in advance. So it's not completely free rein on the part of the student. It will be part of the lesson planning process, but from those those options, students may choose.
Excellent, thank you.
Sure.
My second question is back to the last slide that you were on. So just correct me if I'm wrong, a student in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade at any time can join into the gifted program as long as they qualify based on the battery of tests that they have to take. Is that correct?
Correct.
Does that hold true for the high school as well?
It does.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Myers, and with this, let's say that there's a student transferring in from another middle school into our high school system, and they are not labeled gifted coming into our high schools. Will they have an opportunity to test for gifted once they're in high school, or?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Okay.
We test all the way through 12th grade.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. I have a little personal rub with that because it wasn't like that 24 years ago. And unfortunately for me, I came to Sharando and I was not quote unquote gifted. And so that eliminated a lot of the programs for me, and I was not given the opportunity to test for the gifted program. So I'm glad to hear that's now
Yes.
an option.
We have it
for
all
our
the
high
way
schoolers.
through. We don't have many high school students, but the opportunity is there at any time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We all think you're gifted.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, Mr. Bell. I appreciate that.
Mr. Bell?
Any questions?
I suppose we can recognize Miles over here.
So the testing, that was kind of where my question was at first, but I also go back to budget. So there will be no additional texts need to be purchased for these courses, anything like that?
No,
Okay, just,
We have
no.
the current staff.
and, yeah.
It's all, we have the resources. We just have to write the curriculum, which for the research one, which is a new course, we'll spend the spring writing that curriculum.
Okay, easy enough.
Yeah.
Any
And
other-
it'll be taught by our existing staff.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so these are the recommendations going forward that we recommend, that the superintendent recommends to the committee to the full board, the request of a name change with the recommendation of approval for the following courses: gifted exploratory for middle school, GEMS to gifted academic program, GAP transition to middle school. That's the 6th grade semester 1 course. And then problem solving research and independent study for middle school, which we formerly called PRISMS, to gifted academic program, GAP research 2.
With the additional half credit, is that correct?
We are going to be adding that.
Yep.
Yeah, so
So then that brings us to what the superintendent recommends, unless we have another question.
I do. Miss Jordan, does this need to be two separate recommendations? Okay, can we? All right.
So this is all at the end of the presentation, the motions, is what you're saying? Oh, okay, so we can do this recommendation now, is what you're saying? Thank you. So the superintendent recommends the committee forward to the full board the request for the name change with a recommendation. I have to repeat what you say, I guess. Do I have to repeat what?
Yeah, actually,
you
you don't make the recommendation.
No, I'm saying, is there a recommendation? What?
Yeah.
Ms. Jordan, if you don't mind hitting your button there, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. I
That's okay.
apologize. If you go to board docs, if the board has access to it right now, and you may not, but there is, the recommended motions for each action item are laid out with the correct language that the board can use. That's the recommended language to accomplish what Dr. Myers has
Thank
just
you.
presented.
All right, so there's been a recommendation.
Well, all right, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move the committee forward to the full board the request for the name change with the recommendation of approval for the following courses. Gifted Exploratory for middle school gyms to Gifted Academic Program GAP, transition to middle school, and Problem Solving Research and Independent Studies for middle school Prisms to Gifted Academic Program GAPS Research 2.
We have a motion on the table. Is there a
Second.
second? There is a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank
All
you.
right. I move the committee forward to the full board the request to add the course Gifted Academic Program GAP Research 1 to the program of studies with the recommendation of approval.
There has been a motion, and there's been properly seconded. Any discussion?
Just a moment. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I don't believe Dr. Myers, just to clarify where we're at, but have we gone through, we've gone through all the slides?
We have. We're to the
Okay.
recommendations for all of it.
Okay, I do apologize.
Yes,
There
Ms.
was just
Jordan.
some words I was
She was
wanting to
locked
make
out.
sure. I just want to make sure we were all on the same track. Thank you.
So there's been a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right. Finally, I move the committee forward to the full board the request for approval to add a partial credit of .05 for the Gifted Academic Program.
Point of clarification, it's .5, not .05.
I believe it does say 0.5.
He said .05. That's
Excuse me,
different
I'm
than
sorry.
.5.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
it's
I
a typo.
apologize.
It's okay. All right.
So I apologize.
No,
We want to
thank
make
you.
sure that it's correct.
I move the committee forward to the full board the request for approval to add a partial credit of .5 to the Gifted Academic Program GAP Research 2 with the recommendation of approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Secondary Grading Coalition update. So as I've been doing throughout the fall, we've been breaking this down so you don't have to absorb everything or in any one session, because as you can tell, it's been a lot. The committee has been working on grading scales and assessments over the past month. And so I will step you through where we are with this. Again, we are not to the point of a recommendation. We are simply sharing what we've learned. So we did the research of every school division in the state, and what we learned is that 90% of all school divisions use the 100-point scale. And you can see what the scale is there. What I've indicated at the bottom there is that the passing grade is a 40-point span, while the failing grade is a 60-point span. So that is the reason that there's sometimes debate as to which grading scale to use. The 50-point scale, as you see, it's 4% of school divisions, and you see what's the school divisions listed below, and then each letter grade is evenly distributed. The other scales, 6%, there they are. It's, we're not quite sure the background of those and why they chose the scales they chose, but after all of our research, this is what we learned.
I personally like the 63-point scale.
I looked at that several times.
Because, 3 goes into it evenly, but that's about it, right?
Yeah, I think so, yes. So some positives and negatives of each scale. The 100-point scale, the positives are, and as you can see there, it's recognizable. It's familiar. People for years upon years have been using the 100-point scale. It does support high achievers. If I'm someone who is very motivated and I want that 100, I'm going to work very hard to achieve that 100. Colleges also recognize the 100-point scale because, again, it's very familiar. The negatives to the 100-point scale include this: the impact of a 0. It's oftentimes difficult for a student to recover from a 0, especially if it's a major assessment. That can lead to a student really not recovering throughout the rest of the 9 weeks or semester or even year, depending upon the conditions. It does have a tendency to focus more on grades than it does on the learning. When a student performs poorly over and over again, it can be such that it demotivates them to continue to try. Because if they're earning 25s and 30s, even though they're trying, as you can tell, that becomes potentially an issue. And the stress is indicated by Covington. The 50-point scale, the positives, it is clearly differentiated. So as you saw in that first chart, each grade band carries the same weight. It can increase student motivation because they are able to see that progress. If they were otherwise discouraged with the 100-point, then they know they have a fighting chance to be able to be successful. It does give more granular feedback. One of the, Tom Guskey is a researcher who's spent his entire career on the work of grading. And he says the smaller the scale, the more accurate. Because when you're getting into a 100-point or even a 50-point scale, there's lots of variability, there's lots of subjectivity. So he would argue for an even smaller scale is his recommendation. So it does provide more granular feedback and greater flexibility for differentiated instruction. The negatives to the 50, as you can imagine, there is a lot of feedback on lowering standards. Students say, I can get a 50 and not do anything, so why would I do anything? And so it can be an area there that it could develop a bad work habit ethic. It also can be a false appearance that you think that on paper, it looks like they're learning more than they are, when in reality, they may not be because they had that 50-point floor. And then there is a rationale there that says it's not fair. My child might be working around the clock to learn, and they're only achieving a 60, but a student who does nothing could achieve a 50. So just a hypothetical example there. We reached out to different colleges to learn about their feedback, and I don't expect you to read all of that necessarily, but I did highlight some of the things that various school directors of admissions. We researched UVA, Virginia Tech, and JMU. And so that first statement from UVA, what they do is they norm all of it. So they don't really care about the grading scale. They're going to convert it to a 4.0. They very much do care about that. So that goes back to a previous presentation about GPAs are very important. So, and strength of schedule is very important, but they don't place as much weight on what scale we actually use. Virginia Tech, the same way, they look at the child holistically. If you see there, they evaluate each application at least 3 times. So they want to make sure that they're not just looking at standardized scores, they're not just looking at any one factor, that they take them all into consideration. And the same with JMU. They all norm it back to a 4.0. They do not really they don't put a lot of emphasis on what the scale is. They do, however, if you notice from JMU, they do look at the school system closely and the caliber of that school system. So that was something to take note of. And then moving into assessments. So just to give a little background, a formative assessment is an assessment in real time. So the examples you see there, quizzes, exit tickets, homework, all of those things can be considered formative assessments. They should be short, in real time. It informs not just about the student's progress, but it should also inform about the teaching. You know, are our kids mastering what it was that was taught? And if we're seeing that they're not because they took a little quiz and didn't do well, what are we maybe doing or not doing that we need to modify to better meet the needs of the student? So that's what a formative assessment is. And then summative, as you know, that's the big tests. Those are capstone projects or major projects, end of the year tests, final projects. Those are the ones that carry more weight, and rightly so. One of the areas that the committee looked at was, depending upon what scale the board eventually decides upon, we talked a lot about that. Let's say that it was a 100-point scale. And I'm going to show you on the next slide, there are school divisions who have a 100-point scale, but they allow retakes, and they allow them for a window of time typically. So they would say, you got a 65 on your test, that's failing. If you go back and you do your part and you make corrections and you come back and you retake it, we'll up you to whatever that determined number might be. It certainly wouldn't be up to, the 100, but it would get them back above that line. And so that's something that we need to look at as well, is would we, depending upon the scale chosen, would we recommend going forward with allowing a mastery-based approach? The next slide, you will see what I mean by that. I have many other school divisions that I could share with you. These are the 4 that I chose to share. So you'll see that all of them weight formative and summative. The majority of the state is an 80-20 ratio. So 80% summative, 20% formative. They do make sure in the majority of school divisions that there are a required number of assessments so that no one test is carrying an incredible weight. We want to make sure that there are multiple opportunities for students to demonstrate mastery. So that's what's listed there in that 4th column. And then you can see on the mastery retakes, Fairfax allows them to retake it and they can get 100%. Prince William County says within 2 weeks, students are eligible to retake an assignment and receive the higher of the 2 grades. So there's variation, and there are a lot more variations out there as we did our research. So this is what you as the board will need to consider when we get to that place in December. Will we, as Frederick County Public Schools, go towards a 100-point scale or a 50-point scale? And that would need to be consistent across both middle and high schools. How will formative and summative assessments be weighted? Like the slide that I just shared where it was 70-30 or 80-20. What's the minimum number of assignments for a marking period? Will students be allowed to retake assessments for partial credit? And will zeros be allowed, or will students receive an incomplete until the work is submitted? And so those are the areas that we will go back through in December, along with all the other areas that we've talked about.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the committee?
I have a couple.
Sure.
Before I forget this one, as far as a 0 or an incomplete, at the end of the year, if, say, I got zeros on all my homework, tested great, on everything else, I'm just that student, great in the classroom but lazy at home, and I just take zeros, right? I know I'll probably end up passing because homework doesn't carry that much weight or whatever. With that being an incomplete, how would that vary against it being a 0?
So there comes a point when an incomplete needs to convert to a grade. So that incomplete would be a temporary reality.
Okay.
So it would be a 2-week window, something of that nature.
Okay.
And if they never did homework and they got straight hundreds, they'd get an 80 at the
Right.
end, if you went with the 80-20 scenario.
Okay. Next question, and I don't expect you to have this data, and I don't know how we would get it. But what percentage of our students are probably getting zeros or taking zeros? Let's not say homework, let's just say a test, you know?
I would have to go back and research that. That would be a very granular,
Yeah, it'd be a tough one.
because you would be looking at, of all the content areas we teach. Probably if I were to research that, I would recommend that I start with something that was credit-bearing and something that most students take. So I would try to go in the middle and say English 10. And let's see how many just take the 0. It's a great question, because it would give you the data to say, how prevalent is this?
Right, you know, and that's kind of where I was going with that. You know, if we don't have a whole lot of students taking zeros, you know, maybe we should stick with that 100 scale. And I understand, you know, the 50-point grading scale. I don't like the 50-point grading scale because some of the negatives that you brought up is exactly what I'm thinking. You know, not only are we supposed to be teaching students the curriculum, but we're also providing them with keys for life, right? Because you're not going to be able to take zeros in the workplace. You're just going to end up getting fired. You know, so where I stand right now, I like the 100-point scale. But yeah, I just, you know, as far as work ethic and stuff, but you know, you also got to balance it out. You can't be afraid to fail, right? So I'm not saying take a 0, but if you're struggling on long division or something, and you test below a you know, a 50 or something, and you fail that test, 2 weeks later I can come back after some tutoring or something and take it again. Or maybe I'm a nervous test taker and
Right.
you know, I bombed that test, but now I've seen what it kind of looks like. I can better prepare for it. I think, you know, even with life, you know, we can't be afraid to fail. The only way you fail, right, is they say that you stop trying. So I like the fact that we're giving I like the fact for the retakes so that we can allow those students to do that. I think it does make it a little bit more fair, especially if we're going with the 100-point scale. But yeah, you know, the 50-point scale definitely doesn't make it fair for the students who are busting their butts every day and putting in all the work. So that's kind of just where I'm at with it. But thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
So you'll have that research tomorrow?
I could.
That'd be a tough
I need to leave right now to start, but I could.
Kidding.
Lots of
Any other questions from the committee? From board members that are present? Ms. Klein?
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Dr. Myers, this has been very interesting information, and perhaps I missed it in the beginning. Where do we sit right now at FCPS? Are we on a 0 to 100 or a 50-point
All
scale?
of the high schools are 0 to 100.
0 to 100, okay.
The middle schools vary.
Yes.
And so that's a problem,
Yeah,
and that needs to be addressed.
okay.
Yeah, there is
Okay.
inconsistency in the middle schools. When I worked at
Right.
Ayler, there was a system in place that was sort of a hybrid. You could give zeros for formative, but not for summative. And if the students wanted to retake, they could retake and obtain it up to an 80%.
Okay. This good segue into my next question. This retake thing, I don't remember that when I was in school.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah, did that
didn't
exist
either.
when?
I didn't.
Okay, so with the retake, I'm a little perplexed on that one. When they retake it, do they still have the opportunity to receive full credit for it, or is it only partial? It's only partial? Okay, that's good.
That would be a decision to be made, as different divisions do
Right.
it different ways.
Okay.
Fairfax
So it could-
allows up to 100%, correct?
They do.
The school that I teach in Clark County, and this is across the board in Clark County, they can achieve up to a 90% in the middle school if they retake their quiz or test, any summative.
Any summative,
But
okay.
formative, if they've missed the opportunity, if they've not turned it in, then it's a 0.
And it's a 0, okay.
You can see, excuse me.
Oh, that's fine.
You can
No.
see that Loudon, a student
Yeah.
who, they can earn up to an 80%.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question, when I look at this, I'm trying to think begin with the end in mind, if you will, and the end in mind for me at least, I don't want to speak on behalf of the other board members, but for this board member, is getting as many of our students into their college of choice or tech school of choice, but I'm looking at colleges because they tend to focus on this a little more, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when I look at that a few slides back, you had there was three schools, I think it was Alexandria, Falls Church, and Henrico County, that used the 50% or 50-point scale. I know that Falls Church is the #1 ranked public school system in the state. I think Alexandria is up there. I don't know about Henrico County. So when I read that, when I see that, and then when I read the quotes from the JMU Director of Admissions as well as UVA, it sounds like they take into consideration the school district very heavily. So I have the mentality as well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And when it seems like Falls Church and other school districts have the 50-point scale, and it seems to be working well for their students, if indeed it is, that may be something we want to look at and maybe get some more data. What percentage of their students who apply to UVA, GMU, JMU, Tech, sampling of schools, what percentage of their students apply if we can get that data? And what percentage do get accepted versus where we sit on that scale?
In connection with a grading scale?
Yeah, to help us fetter out which grading scale, because I want to give our
They
students the biggest
don't
advantage.
really. There have
don't?
been
Okay.
state studies that the information from the three schools, UVA, Virginia Tech, and JMU, regardless of the scale a division uses, they convert it to a 4.0. So
Okay.
what really matters is your GPA and your strength of schedule. So if you are taking all AP dual enrollment courses, you are making sure that you are, taking math through the 12th grade and challenging yourself to grow, that you're well-rounded, that you're involved in different clubs and athletics. But really, at the end of the day, they're looking at your GPA.
Just GPA, okay.
Really, and well,
Okay.
I say that, but
Right.
there are, as you saw the feedback from, JMU and Virginia Tech, we review them 3 times and we look at it holistically.
The whole total student concept.
There was
yeah.
a slide I'd be happy to share with you from a previous month where it showed the rank of importance. And that the purpose of that slide was to talk about the importance of class rank. And it was way down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But GPA, strength of schedule, those are at the very top.
Okay, that's good information to know.
Yeah.
That helps.
So the
Thank you.
100-point versus 50-point versus A through F is not really an area that they're going to focus on.
Okay. One more quick question. Do we have any data as to which students in those districts that had the retake option, how many of them took that option? Do we know?
I have no
Don't know.
idea.
Okay.
We struggled
Okay.
to even get that information.
I bet.
The one
Yeah.
thing that I wanted to find out in addition was, were there school divisions that had a 50-point scale for middle schoolers and a 100-point scale for high schoolers, just to say the maturation process over time? And we could only find 2 school divisions in the state that did that.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
that's definitely not prevalent out there. So it's, but I'd be happy to take any other.
No, this answered my questions very well. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one follow-up? On that very last slide that we saw, it was can students, one of the things to consider is can students retake for partial credit? One of the things that I would be interested, just because, Dr. Myers, just because this is kind of my academic jam too, I would just like for us to consider, will students be allowed to retake the summative assessment for full credit? And the reason I ask that is this. If I take a unit test on multiplying fractions and I fail, whether I fail or not, that's still going to be on the SOL. Right, just as an example. Lots of different subjects, lots of different pieces of learning. The reason I bring it up is that the entire idea behind mastery grading is that the grade should reflect nothing more than the kid's mastery of the content, not whether they capitalized their name at the top of the paper or whether they took the test a day late. Like, if we want grades to actually reflect what kids know and what they don't, I would be more inclined to be having that conversation about the grade is the grade is the grade, not adjusted or capped or handicapped in some way. Only because at the end of the day, they still have to take that end of course test in many of their core subjects. So I think that one of the things, and you know this better than I do, the research tells us over and over that mastery-based grading is much more of an indicator of alignment academically in higher education than, if I bring a box of Kleenex the first week of school, do I get 10 bonus points? That's still pretty common, sadly. And that'd be something I would just want us to take into consideration.
So the non-cognitive factors, one of the first sessions we did was on non-cognitive. So you're separating the habits, the responsibility, strength of character, all of those things. You're separating that from the letter grade. And because, again, I might be a wonderful person and I'm out there helping and I'm, definitely a leader, but I might struggle in a given course. And so we want to reflect the whole child in that. So we do keep it separate, and we will, as we make this journey, keep that separate. The mastery-based learning, totally agree with you, that's what we're after, is mastery-based learning. In the vein of that, I would say that by allowing, well, again, it's your, the board's decision, but mastery would, if you did retake takes, it would allow the student to demonstrate mastery, which then would lead to supposedly that their test scores should be higher, their SO, because they've mastered it, rather than just continuing on and never having mastered whatever the content might be. Just thank you.
And if I may just make a comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Myers, but if, there could even be sort of a hybrid version of this, where the summatives count as on a 50-point scale and the formatives are on a 100-point scale, and you can get no lower than a 50 on a summative, but you can get a 0 on a formative, and you could even make the weight of them as a 30-70, so that the homework does count additional. And so those that would refuse to do their homework and just do the test, even if they scored 100%, they would be at a 70. So the impetus, or I would think the desire to get better than a 70% outweighs the desire to get an 80%. I meant that backwards, the other way around. You know what I meant. But to do better on, so they would do their homework. It would
Right.
give them the idea or motivation to do their homework. Is that true?
As far as the motivation?
No,
Or
as far as what we can do, can we hybridize
Oh,
it?
as a division, we have the choice as to how we go
Sure.
about this. So this is left up to the locality, the local school division. And certainly, I believe there are those examples out there.
Sure. And then two, if there's retakes, we can determine what the percentage is that they can achieve in a retake, if we allow retakes, because we don't even have to allow retakes, correct?
No, we do not.
Correct. So,
And what we want to do is have consistency.
right.
So if my child's, in a classroom taking algebra and the teacher across the hall is also teaching algebra, I want to make sure for my child that we've got a similar practice so that, no child is disadvantaged.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Myers. And with that, if there are no additional questions, thank you all for allowing us to present these 3 items this evening.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for presenting today. I know you did a great deal of work on this and continue to do a great deal of work on this. I'm really anxious and interested to see what happens in December and the months to follow. So I'm sure you have lots of work ahead of you. Aside from that little side project I asked you for, I'm kidding. But I do want to say that we're finished with our business, so do I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor for adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.